Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Eretz HaKodesh, Lili Nishmas, Imi Morasi Rusbas Mordechai. And for Refuah Shlema of our very dear friend, he's on Zoom all the time, we know him very well, Steven Sokolov from South Bend, Indiana. He has double pneumonia, and his wife asked that we should daven for him, for Refuah Shlema. So, today's share, Refuah Shlema, for Simcha Nachum, Ben Yehudis Dasi, it says, maybe Hadassah, from the MDY chat Chevra. Some Da'ilim on the chat, they're sponsoring Refuah Shlema. Let me show you what he looks like. In case you don't know, I grabbed a picture from a still, like from one of the videos that he sent in for the Siyum. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's not a very flattering picture, but in case you want to know what he looks like, this is him. Very young guy. I'm not exactly sure what's going on over there, but his wife seems concerned. This was from Yisrael Goldstein yesterday, watching the shir and doing some other extracurricular activity. And today we have doubles. What do I mean by that? This is from David Zlatnik from Brooklyn, New York. Hope when you read this email, we already have President Trump re-elected in a landslide, and of course, you made your flight and are back home. But when I arrived at the voting place this morning, I realized I should vote for you. Please see the picture attached. Okay. We won't be Republicans and Democrats. We'll be the party Daf Yomi, and you can make Daf Yomi mandatory for all Yidden, of course. We'll make the USA world a better place. I know it's a long shot, but you never know. Thank you for you waited in line in Corona to vote for that. Okay, thank you for giving such an amazing share, and thank you to the whole team for making everything run so smoothly on a daily basis. I watch on YouTube every day. Haven't missed a day since we started the cycle. Rabbi Isai, he hasn't missed a day in over 300 days since we started the cycle. And it's really unreal how I feel such a part of the shir, and I feel you're giving the shir right in front of me every single day. I hope you watch it on one of those giant screens that the Ilm is watching it on. Looking forward to joining the shir in Eretz Yisrael once things return to normalcy. An addicted member of the shir, David Z, Brooklyn, New York. We got another one. I don't recall who this is from. Maybe this is from Avi Sherman, not even sure. Another person voted for not just me, but let me read this here. Eli Stefansky, Yosef Biliak, Yeshua, Aaron Price, Noam Fix, Menachem Mata, and all the way in the bottom. Well, guess who the final vote is for? Could you read this? Yoel Bergman was voted. Now, another double one, real quickly. These are very short. This one is from Yitzi Hershkovitz, from Yitzi Distributors of Fine Foods. I believe he's the one that invented the Yitzi pancakes. You know that they have it in New York. It comes in like a milk bottle, you pour it out, it's ready. I think that's him. Dear Rav Eli, first I want to welcome you back to Eretz HaKodesh. I hope that you have a safe flight, and I hope that we'll all meet there very soon with the coming of Mashiach. I also want to thank you for the way you explained today's Daf Pei Zayin. It really helped me and saved me from giving up on the Daf. May I continue to hear many shiurim from you in the future. Yitzi Hershkovitz. Mordechai Zapaznik. Dear Rav Eli, I want to thank you for all the arts and crafts you did in Daf Pei Zayin. It really helped me understand the Gemara. I admire you for going out with all the pictures and arts and crafts in this Daf, even though you just got back from Eretz Yisrael. It shows me that you really care about the Daf and the shir. It gives me a lot of chizik to make sure to listen to the shir every day. Your Talmud Mordechai Zapazik. Yishkoyach. Today is Daf Pei Ches. It's you have to chap the Daf. And Daf Paz. Pause. Mzov. Pause. So no, we're not even holding Daf Paz. We're past that. Believe it or not, it's not a. Don't get used to this, but we're on today's Daf. A couple lines down. And it's a continuation of the sugya that Rav Chananya ben Akavio, he instituted three things. One of them was that you're allowed to use a towel on Shabbos. In fact, we had a Mishnah about it in Masechta Shabbos. Umistapkin ba'aluntis ma'i, 2 lines down from the top of Daf Pei Ches. Desanyo, YouTube is okay. I'm not in the screen. The thing is not in the dat. Okay. We're trying something else. We're going off the regular phone thing, not, Daddy Cornbluth, Shalom Aleichem. I don't see your son, but I see you. Where is Chaim? Where's your other son? Haven't seen him in months. All right, fine. So what he allowed is to use a towel on Shabbos, put it in the mikveh. You don't take it home. You put it in the window of the mikveh. Why? We're concerned that if you're going to bring it home, you might come to wring it out. Soichet is melaben, aser. V'leim serena lul yorin. Don't give it to the attendant in the mikveh. They are really bad. Mepnei shechashudin al oisoi davar. Rashi says because we don't trust them. They'll try to do schita. They'll try to wring it out. Now, if you're wondering to yourself, like I was, why does it use the lashon here? It's a very strong lashon. Mipnei shechashudim al oisoi davar. What's oisoi davar? Mipnei shechashudim on schita. Oisoi davar usually is like not such a nice thing. And in fact, when we learned Masechta Shabbos, it's all the way at the end of the Masechta, the Rach, on this lashon right here, he says, chashud al oisoi davar means they'll use the towel and they'll be metama the towel with shichva zera. That's what he says. It fits in better with the lashon, chashudim al oisoi davar. Fine. Reb Shimon Oimer, it seems like this is the heter that Reb Chananya ben Akavi gave. And Reb Shimon Oimer, and Reb Shimon adds, and he says, Af mevia b'yad. If you ever wonder why you see in Eretz Yisrael, Befrat, you see Shabbos morning, sometimes you see a Hasidic Yid with a towel on his shoulder walking from the mikveh, a guy to hide from the mikveh. But it says in the Gemara, you're not allowed to. You have to leave it in the chaloin. Reb Shimon Oimer, this is how he paskin Af mevia b'yadai l'tech beisai. I'm not concerned that he's going to wring it out on Shabbos. It's not a problem. Omar Rabbi Baravhuno Lishonu Elo Lemalis. So now we're going into a whole sugya. Going back to this beautiful mechitza device, you're allowed to have a mechitza tluya, a hanging.
Eli,
Yes.
can you fix the YouTube phone? It's crooked.
Crooked? I thought I fixed it, but okay, hold on.
Yeah, it looks like your house is slant.
Yeah, you're right. It is crooked. It wasn't like that, I thought, when I started. Things happen. All right. Better? Okay. Shkoyach. All right, it's better to be perfect and look perfect. Nobody should, another hundreds of people look like this. It's not so good. All right. So we're talking about this hanging mechitza, this box that we build way above the water, and we pretend that the mechitza goes down into the water. Mechitza tluya. Says the Gemara, we weren't thinking about it. This is halacha that you could bring the water upwards from the canal that's below your house into your house. But to pour water out, what are you going to do? They didn't have drainage then. Somebody went to the bathroom or whatever. You have dirty water. You want to pour it into the canal. Asur. Why? Because the water is moving. Directly below the box is your rishus. It's a rishus hayachid. But two inches past the box is already a carmelis. You're not allowed to pour water into carmelis, and it's constantly moving. So basically, you're moving it. You're putting it into a moving carmelis. You can't do that. Maskif Rav Shizvi. Now, if you look at Taisus real quickly, Taisus talks about a boat again. That the halacha is if you have shoifchim, you have dirty water on a boat, what do? You pour it onto the wall of the boat and it goes weiter. So he says the word goizer on koichai, which is it's not you direct power because you put it on the wall of the boat and then it went into the water. But over here we're concerned, says Taisus, we're concerned it's going to go directly into Rosh Hashanah. This water will bring it right into Rosh Hashanah, where in the middle of an ocean, in the middle of a lake, it's not shchiach, it's going to go into Rosh Hashanah, and that's why they were makel on a boat. Okay. Says the Gemara, Maskiv Rav Shizvi. V'chima bein ze le'uka. So, on this Amud, we're going to have a Mishnah. We can talk about it now, we're going to talk about it later. A uka is a cesspool. And the halacha is that if you have a cesspool in your yard, I guess they used to dig into the yard and pour their stuff in there. The halacha is that if your yard is less than 4 amas, you have to have a cesspool. And even if the cesspool is full to the top, you're allowed to pour water into it. I know that when I pour the water into it, it's going to go into the Rishus Harabim, it's going to go immediately. As I pour it, it's going to go. It's not a problem. Says the Gemara, Hani taimi v'hani loy taimi. A cesspool, and we have it today as well. You know, a lot of people have these manholes in their yard, and it's designed to absorb the water. Now, even when the water doesn't absorb, you flush your toilet down, and then it comes up and it rolls away. But your intent is not to have it go into the Rishus Harabim. It's what's your kavana? It's about kavana over here, and your kavana is davar she'ein miskaven. Your kavana is to put it in the pit. The fact that it moves weiter from the pit, that's something else. But over here, when you pour it directly into the moving canal below your house, that's your kavana. Your kavana, you know where it's going, and it's going out immediately. It just moves. It's constantly moving. That's the difference. So hana taimi, the cesspool in your yard is designed to absorb, and even if you know that it's not going to absorb right now, that's not your kavana. Masha'inkein over there, that is your kavana. Ikadamri. And now we're going to have the exact opposite in Rabbi Bar Rav Huna. The opposite. It's 100% mutter to spill your water out into this hanging mechitza. Love this mechitza. Hanging mechitza. Don't say it's asur. Nami shari. Okay. You're allowed to spill the water as well, but not in a chutzner. In a chutzner that's less than 4 amas, that you can't do. You don't have this idea that that's not your kavana, because over there you will 100% want it to go out. Omar Rav Shizvi, Pshita, Hainuuka. So now the Gemara is going to ask the reverse question that we asked before. Why wouldn't it be mutter? A second ago we said it's asr, but in this lashon we're saying that it's 100% mutter to spill water going into the canal. Why not? Why is it any different than a cesspool? Oh, the chiddush is the same. We're going to use the same as far as we used before. A cesspool is a little different because it's designed to absorb, and if it doesn't absorb, who cares? But that's its design. That's your kavana. Masha'inkin in a river, mashmalon even in a canal in a river, you're allowed to spill your water out there. Says the Gemara v'chein shnei gzus terais. The halacha applies if you have 2. Let's see if we have the picture here. Shnei gzus terais.
Why are you allowed? Why isn't it a psik resha?
I knew you were going to ask me about psik resha. I was waiting for that. You mean it's 1,000% going to go out there? I don't know if it's 1,000% going to go out there.
That even though it's going to go out there, it's kocho and it's mutter because it's not its kavana. But it's a psik resha. Kavana shouldn't matter here.
I don't know if it's a psik resha. Psik resha means that it's 100% going to happen. I don't know. As I was reading it, I was waiting for you to ask me that. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a good kasha. Is it 100% going to go to Rishus Harabim? I don't know. If it's 100% going to go to Rishus Harabim, you might be right. It's psik resha, we have to understand why. Can't think of a good reason if it's 100%. Okay, we'll have to think about it. Zog the Gemara. This halacha of balcony next to balcony, that the lower guy is permitted to use the upper guy's mechitza tluya. That's only when they're close to each other. We learned this halacha. Al b'mufleges, when it's more than 4 tefachim away, el yoina muteres. So stop. Sorry. We said that when they require an eruv, and if there's no eruv, they're asr. But if there's an eruv, it's mutter. When do we say that one is asr, that this guy is asr, and they're both asr? In other words, the lower guy asrs the upper guy when they're close to each other. But when they're far away from each other, then the upper guy and the lower guy have nothing in common, because the lower guy, in a second we're going to see why not, the lower guy can't asr the upper guy. Why? Since the only way he can use the upper. Now Rashi points out, it's not talking about height, it's talking about distance. And when it comes to distance, even if it's 10 amas high, it's not a problem. But if it's horizontally away from him 4 amas, then you have to toss it. You have to throw it in the air, And going back to that halacha that we learned extensively the other day, Ein Adam Oyser Al Chaveroi Derech Aver Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Rav holds that I cannot aser somebody else's property through my usage of the airway. Amar Rav Chia, Rav Yosef Amar. So Rabbah says in the name of Rav Chia, Rav Yosef Amar in the name of Rabbi Yishaya. So the Gemara in the Havamina, in 2 lines, we're going to have charata from this, but this is the Havamina. Yesh Gazil b'Shabbos. In other words, I could steal my friend's property. I'm not 100% such a ganav. Why? My friend is not using his property. It's a churva. It's ruins. He has a dilapidated house. He never uses it. It's not usable. He wants to renovate it. But meanwhile, I go in there, I play ball in the backyard without rishos. I'm not asking rishos. But you know what? Zenenev is the lechaser. What does he care? He's not using it anyways. One day he's going to knock down the house and build a new one. Right now, I'm stealing it, quote unquote. Stealing. To the point where I'm not going to make an Eruv. I use this. My children use the backyard every single day. So why do I have to go ahead and make an Eruv? It's mine. I just chopped it away from him. Says the Gemara. And then a second later, it just ruined this beautiful idea. V'churva machzer lebailim. Oh, and you have to give it back to the owner, and you have to make an Eruv. So obviously, something's wrong here. It doesn't really make sense. Hagufa kasha. It's a kasha. It's a contradiction. Mineu bei. You're saying that you could steal it to the point you don't have to make an Eruv. Alma kanya. It's yours, so to speak. V'churva, and then a second later, machzer lebailim. You have to give it back. Alma loy kanya. You have to make an Eruv. Says the Gemara, no, you misunderstood. Yes, didn't gezel b'Shabbos. It's a regular gzela. V'heishavas ha'gzela. Give it back right away. You have no business using the guy's backyard, and therefore you must make an Eruv. Keitzad the churva machzil b'ailam. That's all we're trying to say. You know what? It was a false havamin. We're just trying to explain to you the brisa. Basically, yesh gezel means not that you could steal it. The opposite. It's stealing and give it back. And memela, since you have to give it back, you must make an Eruv. So, ma'aseh shahaya, if you have a yard and you tend to use your neighbor's yard without permission because you figure he doesn't care, ma'ich paslei, it doesn't matter. You have to make an Eruv. Omar Rabba, I have a question though. So he understood that in this case, we have 2 balconies, one is lower than the other. This guy chops this balcony when the other guy's not looking. He likes to put his stuff there. Once in a while, he needs room. He's walking around on his balcony. It's kind of tight. So without rishos, he uses it during the weekday. So he's trying to chop the guy's balcony. If he chops the guy's balcony, he asers the other guy. Since he's buddies here, he uses his balcony. And now when it comes to Eruv, he's going to make it also for the top guy to use his device. They both need an Eruv. Without an Eruv, they both also to use the device. Why? Because he constantly uses, the lower guy constantly uses the upper guy's balcony without permission. But if the bottom guy has to return it, he has no right to use it without rishos. How could I make my friend's property usher for him to use it without an Eruv? Because I'm doing it Isra and I'm doing over and Gzela. So he's a nice guy, doesn't say anything. But I never acquired rishus from him. And that's why we explained it back when we learned it. Rashi explains over there, you're right. The only way the bottom guy could make an isser on the top guy and make him mechuyev to make an eruv is when they built it in a partnership. Wait a minute, if it's a partnership, so what's the difference? So if they made this device, this mechitza tluya on the bottom one, it should also be also for both of them. They have a partnership. They're both using 2 things, and they need a mechitza here. They need a eruv. Says the Gemara, kivin the asal tachtoina. But once they made this mechitza tluya for the bottom balcony, galuya galia daita the ano ba'adoch leinichli. So yeah, they use it a lot, and they're partners and everything. But what they're trying to say is that on Shabbos we have nothing to do with each other. We don't want to have anything to do with each other. Look, I have my own device. You have your device. And Memela, for Shabbos, they are not partners and they don't require to make an Eruv together. But if the Mechitzat Luya is only on the top guy, now they're partners. They built it together. They spent the money together. two people using the divide, they have to make an eruv. Zok the Mishnah. Hey, Ligi Mishnah. What do we have here, real quickly? Reb David Osborne. Shalom Aleichem. And the wrong corn bluth. I miss you. The dog misses you. But I don't know what you did. You mechanech him a little bit better. He's a shtickle better now.
Eli,
Yeah.
we missed to recognize John Bodner's birthday. So we should wish John Bodner a happy birthday.
Wow, John Bodner. But I don't see him on Zoom, so he probably watches us on the YouTube, no? I used to see him on Zoom occasionally.
He's a closet Zoomer. He's like, the shy Trump supporters.
It's not a joke, not a joke. In Borough Park, one of the many people that came out there in the sukkah, I forgot his name though. Shmaka Chassid, the whole thing. A businessman, he tells me, I'm a closet YouTube guy. Nobody knows about it, but I want to tell you, I never missed a shir. I'm here to support you. Shalom Yisrael. I don't think Eli Dykman even knows what I'm talking about. Maybe, like a tall guy, the whole... All right, fine. Oh, by the way, I want to mention, I forgot to make a point of it, but I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just got an email. It seems like the first ever weekly, what are we calling it? Like a newsletter. I think it's going to be a very geschmack thing. And Rabbi Schoenberg put a beautiful shtickle Torah there. And there's so if you have something, a refuah shlema, a mazel tov, a joke, something inspired, whatever it is, send it in to dafbrama, so it could be in the first one, and we'll expand on it. We'll picture this, that. But it'll be a cool thing to send out every week or whatever, every other week, whatever. But they put some guys, mamish worked hard on it. It looks very nice. It's geschmack stuff. I'll make another chizuk for the chabura. A way to get everybody together. All right, Zog the Heilige Mishnah.
Eli's going to be putting in a weekly chumash year.
I did get an email from Pressman. I met him in Muncie, and he wrote me an email. Maybe I'll read it one of these days. Like, he's stopping to press for the chumash because he's waiting for me to get back on the 8-minute, which, by the way, I put together yesterday, and I almost did it. I was this close. Well, I'll start with I don't like doing that, starting from a new parak. I wanted to start yesterday, and I wrote it out and everything, but there was a few issues that I had to take care of. And kids, today, Be'ez Hashem, Bli Neder, it's starting today. All right, and then he's going to start pressing me again. Zok the Mishnah, Chatzashi Pchusam Arba Amos, we got to move. So if you have a chatzar that's less than 4 amos wide, ein shoyfchim betoicha mayim b'Shabbos. So, as we discussed in the beginning, you have a small chatzar. Let's see if I have it's a picture. I should have used this maybe earlier. So here's your chatzar. You can't pour wastewater in your chatzar. This is less than 4 amos, 8 by 8 feet, let's say. Elohim kein asula uka machzekes sosayim min hanekev ulamato. Uka, a little bit of a cesspool. Right here, I depicted it in red. And here would be your cesspool outside. Here's a nice one that he drew, the Kol HaLashon. It even has a manhole here, nice little covering. Fine. Now, a couple of things here. The Mishnah says, Min hanekev ulamato, so beautiful picture that I found in Yoni, which shows you the nekev ulamato. Meaning, there's a drainage pipe that goes from your chutzner outwards, depicted in red, this red circle. So the water level, up until this drain pipe that takes it out to the Rishus Rabbim, that has to hold 2 saw. Now let's talk about 2 saw for a second. There's a trick question to get you thinking a little bit. We learned about 2 saw a lot in this Masechta. What's 2 saw? 70 plus amma by 70 plus amma. 50 by 100 amma. That's 100 feet by 200 feet. That's 2 saw. It says over here in the Mishnah that the cesspool has to hold 2 saw. How's that possible? 200 feet by 100 feet. It's just a trick question. The answer is that what we were learning about 2 saw means that you could plant seeds on 2 saw. How much area, what size field do you plant seeds? The size is 100 by 200 feet, 50 amma by 50 by 100 amma, or 70 by 70 amma. But how much are these seeds? How much is 2 saw seeds? You're not going to believe this. See in the Ramah says a half a amma by half a amma. Found the perfect thing here. See this plaque? This is a half a amma. 1 foot, 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. Now, I'm sorry, I should say it's this way. The height is slightly more, 6 centimeters, like a foot and a couple of inches. Okay, so this is the size. Your cesspool only has to be this big. Don't think that it has to be 2 sa. That's all I wanted to emphasize here. 2 sa that we're talking about is in fact a huge area. Way more. 70 amma by 70 amma is a lot more than 4 amma. You're talking about a 4 amma chutzner here. Fine. But that's the amount of seeds, a box of seeds could you plant on 70 by 7. All right. So this cesspool has to hold 2 sa of water. So, Nachamal. So if you have a chutzner that's less than 4 ammas, you must have a cesspool. Otherwise, you cannot pour your water there. It's not going to absorb it. Bei mibachutz, bei mibifnim. So, whether your cesspool is inside the chutzner, or your cesspool is out of the chutzner. Ella, shemibachutz tzarech likmar. You must have a covering on the cesspool. Why? And this Rabbi Isai, I don't know if anybody ever thought about this. There's a major problem to go to the bathroom on Shabbos. Why? Because when I flush the toilet, the water that I flush goes from my house and goes outside into the street, into Rosh Hashanah. Why is that not a problem? I just took an item and I moved it into Rosh Hashanah. So the Chazon Ish says, based on this Mishnah, and this is the idea, I'll ask you another question. What is this area right over here? This area right over is Rosh Hashanah. I could go and pour water into Rosh Hashanah from my house. How could I pour water from my house into Rosh Hashanah? This cesspool over here is sitting in Rosh Hashanah. It says Beimim Bachutz. The answer is because it has a cover. And once it has a cover, it's not a Rosh Hashanah anymore. It's a Makom P'tur. So I'm pouring water into Makom P'tur. So we have to understand that. Great. By the way, since I just read this word, I must say the story that you're all familiar with, but it's like Begeder Baruch Sha'asali Neis B'Makom Hazeh. When I was 3 years old, and this is brought in Reb Nachman Seltzer's book, who happens to be watching the Beis Medrash every single day. I didn't know this, but when I was in America, at that time I missed my flight and I went to curl up in my bed all depressed. I said, maybe I should say the shir now live, and then I went online and I looked at the video camera and I see 10 people in the Beis Medrash. 10 people. I couldn't believe it. I saw Dr. Factor and a bunch of other guys. And Nachman Seltzer is sitting there with his son. So I asked him, he came to visit last night. Every day, I never miss a day, and my son comes with me. I didn't chap that. Okay, I don't see him on Zoom anymore. Fine. So Nachman Seltzer wrote in his book, Azoy, when I was 3 years old, Nachama, we're doing Chazaris Hashir because it's mamish and nes. I wanted to build a treehouse with Yitzi Sussman, Simcha Sussman's brother, he's a Maggid Shir and Shayashiv. I wanted to build a treehouse on Shabbos Kodesh. I was 3 years old. So I went into the forest and I saw a piece of plywood and I said, this is the perfect platform for the treehouse. So I went to the piece of plywood and I lifted up the piece of plywood by myself and I started walking with it to lift it up. And I fell into the bungalow colony's cesspool. And the piece of plywood fell on top of me. And Yitzi Sussman turns around and he says, Eli, where are you? He couldn't find me. He didn't know where I was. He thought, Vativleo Adoma. He went back to the bungalow colony, called my father, called Reb Shmuel Brazil, Reb Shmuelka Brazil. He said he was there, he witnessed the story. And they saved my life. My mother ran, she broke her foot. But I was saved. So anyways, that was a cesspool with a cover. And that's what we're talking about. You have to have a cesspool, tzarech likmar, and it has to have a cover. Mibifnim, that was my punishment at 3 years old for trying to be Michal Shabbos, build a treehouse on Shabbos.
Rebelli.
Yeah.
Rebelli?
Yeah.
The big guy's name is Shmooze Strasser.
Oh, Shkoyach, Shmooze Strasser. Oh, that's very good to know. Remind me, write it down. Send me a WhatsApp. I want to remember that name, please.
Yeah, I sent it to Yeshua.
Okay.
Contact and everything. Absolutely.
Shkoyach. Well, now I don't know if you should have said it, but over here, he's a closet YouTuber. Shalom Aleichem Shmuel Strasser. Okay. Zog the Gemara, says the Mishnah. Rebbe Lezer B'Yakov Oimer Bivshu Komor Arba Amos B'Shusar. I wanted to finish the parak today. I don't know if that's going to happen. Bivshu Komor Arba Amos B'Shusar Rabim Shoyfchoy L'Toychoy Mayim B'Shabbos. So now comes Rebbe Lezer Yaakov, and the Gemara is going to explain to us, by the way, so this is good to point it out here, that the entire Mishnah was Rebbe Lezer Yaakov. The fact that it says Rebbe Lezer Yaakov, we're starting over here, it's not true. It's missing Sher Rebbe Lezer Yaakov. This is the continuation, the Gemara will explain, but I just want to point it out here so we have some sort of context. Rebbe Lezer Yaakov comes and says that if you have a drainage that's closed 4 amas in the Rosh Hashanah. Here's a nice picture from Yoni, if I could find it. Oh. This way? Yeah. Here's the guy's house. Here's the Rosh Hashanah, and he put a giant piece of metal over here. It's 4 amas by 4 amas. He pours it out into it. If it's covered 4 amas, why? Again, it's a Makam P'tur that could absorb all this water, and therefore is loy mechaven. Bechachamim oimrim, afilu gag oy chotzer mea ama lo yishpoich. So, say the Chachamim, it's usher to pour water directly into the biv. Maybe they're saying like Noam a little bit. It's obviously going to happen. It's direct. Lo yishbach al pi biv. You're not allowed to pour. I don't care if this biv is 100 amas long. In other words, it could absorb. It's not about absorbing, as we're going to see another svar in the Gemara, because if the thing is absorbing, then 100 amas is very absorbed. But you could pour it on the roof. In those days, the roofs were flat. I'll pour it on the roof, and what's going to happen? There's a drainage canal here, and it's going to go directly to the ground, to the Rosh Hashanah, but on the roof you're allowed to, not in the biv, not in a drainage on the ground. We said that the chotzer has to have 4 amas in order for you to pour the water, and if not, you need to have a cesspool. However, if you have a combination of, over here you have the pergola on the outside, so you have 2 amas by 4 amas. Over here you have a chotzer in blue, 2 amas by 4 amas. So the 2 amas by 4 amas and 2 amas by 4 amas are going to be mitzdarf. We're going to see soon that they have to be lined up. They're not offset like this, they have to be lined up. But that's cheating, that's what the Gemara is going to talk about soon. V'chein shtei diyotos zoi keneged zoi. Diyotos, basically, here's a beautiful picture from Yoni. I have another one if you want to see. 2 upper levels. Why upper? I'm not 100% sure. They are opposite each other. These guys made a cesspool down here. The guy on the left. The guy on the right wants to use this guy's cesspool. The guy over here, you see him carrying his water, is not allowed to use the cesspool. The Gemara is going to discuss whether there's an Eruv, not an Eruv. What is the problem? Says the Gemara, my time. So we have here 2 svaras.
Rashi says it's Elias. That's why he drew it that way.
No, I know. I know why he drew it. Yuta Elyaina, I know it's an Aliyah. Why? I wasn't sure why the Mishnah says that it's an Aliyah. Not 100% sure. Like if it's a ground level, 2 ground levels, one has a uka, the other one doesn't. I didn't chap. I'm missing something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing exactly, but you hear what I'm saying, Menachem? You have pshat? Tell me. My time, so the Gemara gives us 2 svaras why it has to be in a chatzar 4 amas. Pshat number 1 is because a person uses 2 saw of water every day. So this is a svara of that I want to settle the dust. I have a lot. My yard is very dusty. I take the water and use it in a certain way to settle the dust. Okay. As the Gemara is going to explain, only in the summer, when there's dust, in the winter, like here in Israel, it's raining already 24 hours, Givaldik. In Chicago, by the way, it snowed 2 days. By the way, I forgot to mention that. But two days that I was there, it snowed. It didn't stick or anything, but it snowed. Pacha is Ma'ara. Now, we just turned to Daf Ches Amud Beis, sponsored by Dr. Alan Listhouse the Tzaddik, in memory of my mother, Shendel Bas Aaron Hirsch, and Bracha, Shendel Bas Aaron Hirsch and Bracha, by her son. And sponsored by the Austin and Tobias grandchildren, Lili Nishmas, our Bubby, Zissel Bas, Reb Chaim. She was nifter at the age of 98. Gimel Mar Cheshbon. Pachis Mar Ba Shoifchan. The less than 4 amas, you don't do ziluf. You don't try to settle the dust. Therefore, it's just you pour it out. And Memelo, there's a gzera here, says Rashi, that you might throw out the water directly into Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, Idavid ukoshari. If you made a cesspool, then it's okay. Eli, if you didn't make a cesspool, then it's no good. Reb Zera Omar. Now another svar. So svar number one is that I use the water in the summer to settle the dust. Reb Zera Omar Dalad Amas Taimi Pachis Dalad Amas Taimi. The svar that we had before that 4 amas could absorb 2 sa of water. Less than 4 amas not. Ask the Gemara, my binayu. Amar Abaya, Arich v'katan ike beinayu. Very simple. If the chatzar is 2 amas by 8 amas, it has the same amount of square footage as a 4x4, but it's long. People don't bother to settle their dust. Like, I think I mentioned this, my friend in Flatbush in the 30s, he has a strip of grass that's 2 feet by 6 feet in front of his house. And I made fun of him. I said, here, I'm over the grass. I jumped over it. I said, this is your yard. And he got very insulted. A yard like that, nobody cares about. He does. He mows his lawn with the scissors. He goes, kitzer, he puts his 2 cabbages. I said, fine. But normal people are not mizalif. They don't care if this dust is settled or not because it's not it's 2 feet long. Imagine if it was 6 inches by 100 feet. You're going to start ziluf. If it's 4x4, fine. But if the vart is absorption, then absorption is in square feet. So even if you have 2 amas by 8 amas, it's the same square amma. And memela, this does apply. Absorbing does apply, whereas settling the dust doesn't apply. Ask the Gemara a number of questions. It says in our Mishnah, amas. So in this picture, like we mentioned before, look at this. It's not 4x4 because the red box of the chsadra is over here. The blue box is over here. This seems like absorption rather than ziluf. Says the Gemara, El Rabo says that it has to do with settling the dust. Kashio. Why is this okay? You don't settle dust like this. This is a weird shape. Gemara Zera, Alibo, the Rabbo, Bachsadri Maleches, Salpnei Kalachatzer Kula. No, you learn pshat wrong. They're side by side. The blue and the red equal 4x4 amma square. They're not offset like you thought in the Havamim. Tashma. It's not square. You're not allowed to pour water. That says that it has to do with settling the dust. That's why it has to be square. Why does it have to be square? Why does it mention 4x4? Just say the square amma. Why are you telling me it has to be exactly 4x4? Rabbanon in the Mishnah who say, remember that you're not allowed to pour water even into a drainage that's 100 amma long. Obviously, they don't hold of the concept of absorption. Because if they do, they would say 100 amas absorbs a lot. So what do they hold? They hold of the concept of ziluf, of settling the dust. So this brayso goes according to Rabbanon. Umasnisin in our Mishnah, Rebbe Elazar Yaakov. And Rebbe Elazar Yaakov in our Mishnah does hold of absorbing. That's why when we're learning the Mishnah, we're talking about absorption, not absorption. Who told Reb Zera that the Mishnah is talking about absorbing? Maybe it's ziluf, maybe it's settling the dust. Amar Rava, because in the Mishnah the lashon is very, very much aligned with absorbing rather than settling the dust. Masnising shite, he had a kasha. My ear the tana chaser sheep chusa listening chaser she'emba dalet amas dalet amas. Why is let's think about the lashon. The Mishnah says if it's missing from the 4x4, what does that mean? That it doesn't have the right amount of square footage. It doesn't have the right amount of square amas. It's missing. That's not what the Mishnah should say. The Mishnah should say it doesn't have the right shape. The point is not the right amas. The point is the right shape. As long as it's not square, people don't settle dust. So don't say that's pachais 4x4. Say it's 2x4. It's 2x8, for instance. If it's not 4x4, but it's 2x8, it's also not good. If we're talking about absorption, it's square amas. That makes a lot of sense. Pachas, it's missing from the square amas. But if the problem is to settle dust, then the word missing doesn't fit in here. It's not the point. The point is not that it's missing from the square footage. The point is that it's missing from the shape. That's the point. Not pachos, but the shape is off. Listen, obviously, Reb Zera felt that our Mishnah is a problem of absorption. Ask the Gemara. So, like I pointed out when we were learning the Mishnah, smack in the middle of the Mishnah it says, Reb Lezer ben Yaakov Omer, a whole new Reb Lezer ben Yaakov that talks about if you have a drainage pipe and it has to be covered. But it's in the middle of the Mishnah. It's only from the midpoint of the Mishnah that Reb Lezer ben Yaakov starts. But the first part is not the sheet of Reb Lezer ben Yaakov at all. Says the Gemara, it is. Kula Reb Lezer ben Yaakov. It's all going with Reb Lezer ben Yaakov that the svara in the Mishnah is if you have a chatzar, it has to be able to absorb, and how much is absorption? 4x4. The chasur mechsur, the reason why it starts in the middle of the Mishnah, Reb Lezer ben Yaakov, as if he starts over there and he doesn't talk about the beginning, it's missing. You have to understand by yourself that what? If it's less than 4 amas, you can't pour water in the Shabbos. But if it has 4 amas, you do. Why? Not Rebbe Lezer Yaakov. You have to add a shin. It's because it's a continuation. Because Rebbe Lezer Yaakov says, has to do with absorption and etc. Says the Gemara, Rebbe Lezer Yaakov Omer, Biva Kamor. Now, according to Chachamim, now we have to just jump to Chacham, not Rebbe Lezer Yaakov. It says V'chulu. According to Chachamim, Masnisin Deloike Chananya. Our mission doesn't go according to Chananya. That what? The Sanya Chananya Omer, Afilu Gag Meo Amelo Yishpoich. I don't know if you in Eretz Yisrael was once on a bus. Yerushalmi girl said to another girl, "My mama macht alle erev Shabbos a sponge gdoila." I don't know if you know what that means. Kitzer, I learned that you saw there's something called a sponge gdoila and a sponge ktana. Sponge ktana is that you take a rag, you put it on the sponge stick, and you do sponges. Sponge gdoila means you take a hose, you hose down your whole apartment. And what happens? It happened more than once to me. You walk in Meir Sharim, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden, you get shot with water right in the head. Why? Because my mama macht alle erev Shabbos a sponge gdoila. Shkoyach. There's people walking the street. Too bad on them. Where's my sponge gdoila going to go? Fine. So it just reminded me of this. This Chananya says that these rooftops are flat. And Memela, when I make sponge gdoila on my rooftop, I'm pouring water on my rooftop. Where's it going to go? It goes immediately onto the sidewalk in one direct motion. Shkoyach. So you're over. You're going from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. He's mechulak on everybody in the Mishnah, and he says you cannot do a roof. Chacham say you could do a roof, but you can't do a drainage pipe. He says even a roof you can. Tana. So now the Gemara says, listen, all that we discussed was in the summer. It doesn't make a difference. Think about it. In those days, Nebuch. You go into your yard, you're full of mud and this, it's disgusting. So what's the difference? You pour this, you pour that. How much you pour? You need a cesspool? Your whole backyard is a cesspool. It's like you go, you pour. My time on my Rava, he doesn't care. He doesn't have kavanah to go into Rosh Hashanah. He pours it here, he pours it there. What's the difference? You can't pour more water on water. It's all mud anyway. But it's not true. Think about it. Chachamim in the Mishnah. Again, we're talking about Chachamim who say that you can't pour water into a drainage pipe that's 100 feet long. Obviously, Viktani lo yishpaich. It says you can't. But in the winter, what do I care? If you're concerned that he's gonna ruin his yard, he doesn't care. Why? He doesn't want it to go into Rosh Hashanah because he doesn't care about ruining his yard. It's already ruined. And if the whole problem is because people might say, oh, look at him. This Talmud Chacham guy, he does Daf Yomi every day. He pours his water, so I'm also going to do it. And he's going to go directly to Rosh Hashanah and pour directly to Rosh Hashanah. Or he's going to do it in the summer, says Rashi. Whatever the problem. But people are going to learn from him and they're going to make mistakes based on it. You should know that these pipes are constantly dripping water all winter long. So nobody thinks that you just poured water in there. They think it's from the rain that happened 2 days ago. Okay. The Mishnah Berurah actually points out, even if there's no rain today, it didn't rain. But these pipes constantly have like a certain, they're always spitting out water. Says Gemara Rav Nachman Meisak Shomim Uka Machzik Sosayim. In the winter, if you have a cesspool that holds 2 saw, Noislim Sosayim. Now, do Taisis real quickly. Bottom Taisis, very important. Machzik Sosayim Noislim Sosayim, very short. Lav Dafka Sosayim says Taisis. It doesn't mean 2 saw. Elafilu Kurayim. You can put 60 saw. The Lavachi and Chiluk ben Sosayim L'saw. The Gemara should have said you could fill up a cesspool the size of the cesspool. If it's 3 saw, 3 saw, 1 saw, 1 saw. Why does the Gemara make a distinction between 2 saw and 1 saw, as we're going to see in a second? Obviously, because 2 saw, you can go way more than 2 saw. 1 saw, you're stuck at 1 saw. Uko machzik sasai, noisin l'sasai. Machzik saw, noisin l'saw. Right? So Taisa says, why are you telling me 2 different measurements? Say just a general rule. However large it is, that's how much water you can pour in it. But in the summer, machzik sasai, noisin l'sasai. If it's 2 saw, that's the measurement. Saw a noisin la kolikar. But if it's only 1 saw, forget about it. Ask the Gemara, what's the difference? Why can't you put 1 saw worth? It holds 1 saw. Put one saw. Because you might come to put more. So what's the difference? How come in the winter you're not concerned? Like the Svaras we said before. What are you concerned in the winter? That he's makbid that it should go into Rosh Hashanah. He's not so makbid because his yard is ruined anyways, muddy anyways. And if you're concerned what other people are going to say about him, and therefore, therefore, even if it's a very large amount, you could pour it in there, even 30 saw, 60 saw, it doesn't matter, says Abaya in Rav Nachman. Should I go weiter? Should I finish the parak or stop here? It's a very good shaila. We're going to stop right here. Shir Hamalois, Yishkoyach, have a wonderful day, everybody. Shir Hamalois, Mimamakim Kosifah Adonai. And do you know Yishma B'Kadi? Ima Benis Tishmu Yadrim Yamo.
Awesome.
Ishkoyach. Thank you. Yitzi Spiro, Shalom Aleichem. It's great to see you.
Eli, thank you.
What? What'd you say? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Have a good day.
Good day. Good day. I'll take that. Yeah. Reb Shmelke, was herzach? Was macht er Yid?
I just want to tell you,
Ja.
years ago I asked this kasha, and
Also-
they laughed at me.
What's the kasha?
They said, so klotz kasha. The one that you mentioned, if it's a shalat to flush the toilet in Shabbos, it goes down to the Shisarab.
Ja.
I asked that kasha, and they might, it's a klotz kasha.
I'm saying you know what? A lot of times we do things now because everybody does it, so we don't really think about the implications. Does it have a shayla in halach or not? It's an interesting shayla. So what's the answer? The answer is because it's a makom p'tur. Since it's covered, it's a makom p'tur, and it's not going to. It's not considered going to Rosh Hashanah.
That's not how they answered it. They answered it. It doesn't go. It doesn't. You're not pushing it into the Shisarab. You push it.
It's not koichai. It's not koichai. You're saying like Tosfos, right? But here's the thing. But Tosfos says, right? But Tosfos says that we don't say that when it goes to Rosh Hashanah. We say that in the Carmelis.
Yeah.
You have to look in Tosfos here. Tosfos says that koichai. Listen, koichai and Rosh Hashanah is a problem. Says Tosfos.
But the first time I had that,
In a Carmelis, in a boat, it's not a problem. Koichai, that's why we pour water on the side of a boat. But koichai, to say the koichai, that's not a good answer. It's just a rabbin. That's why you have to come onto the Chazanish that it's a makom p'tur, not a Rosh Hashanah.
I never heard anybody saying and asking me. So happy you did.
All right.
I had a problem in China.
Yeah, what's the problem in China?
These kashas that you asked and you got laughed at. You seem to have
In
a lot of
China,
these kashas.
I've travelled extensively in China, and in a lot of the villages, the drains are completely open. They're not covered at all.
Oh,
It runs straight down the
oof.
sidewalk.
Oy, oy, oy.
As well, but in China, in the villages, I've spent a lot of time there, and believe me, it's a proper. I mean,
In
it's why you
Africa,
can't
you have the same thing.
Oh, but you know what? It's not Rosh Hashanah probably in a village. How many people?
It's good.
No,
It's
it's
a good
not.
thing. It's a good thing that Ali wasn't there when he was 3 years old.
The average village in China has got more than 600,000 people.
Really?
Ali Dykeman, you are the best. I can't believe you.
Let me turn off YouTube for a
I'm so
second.
excited that I messaged you. Ali, you're the best.